In life, there are certain things that you find interesting after you reach a certain age. And for me, that was prophecies found in the book of Daniel. Hi.
Good to see you.
You too. This is Mr. Prewitt. He teaches our class on Daniel prophecies.
The prophecies of Daniel have been more successful than any other studies at leading atheists to become believers, at producing Adventists. William Miller studied Daniel, and that's how he concluded his conclusion that Jesus was coming back soon. And we can still find that information. Look at Daniel today. We can still see where we are in the stream of prophecy, and it's powerful to see that God knew the history of this world 2,500 years in advance.
For this point of the video, my original plan was to put in my 40-minute long presentation, which I did in class. But as Oscar Hudson once said,
well, that wouldn't have been a lot of fun now, would it?
to understand the prophecies, there is a code. It is that one prophetic day equals to one real year. And we can find out more about this in Numbers 14, verse 34, and Ezekiel 4, verse 6. Make sure you remember the code. We'll be using it a lot. Let's do some simple math real quick. So, we know 1 week equals 7 days, right? So that means 70 weeks times 7 days equals to 490 days. But if we apply our code here, we get 490 real years. You just figured out how long the 70 weeks prophecy go on for. Take a look at Daniel 9 verse 24. 70 weeks are determined for your people and your holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy one. Okay, so 3 things. The first one, 70 weeks are determined for Israel. The second one is, someone will come and then fix the problem of sin and also make reconciliation. The third one is, the most holy will be anointed. We find something interesting in verse 25. This is what it says. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The streets shall be built again, and the wall even in troublesome times. So verse 25 mentions when the 490 years will start. If you take a look at Ezra chapter 7 from verse 12 all the way to verse 26, you'll see that there's a decree from King Artaxerxes the first. He made a decree to restore Jerusalem. If you Google the decree, Google says that it was given on 457 BC. But in the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah, we can see that King Artaxerxes' decree wasn't the only one. Why is the decree of King Artaxerxes considered the starting point? Well, it's simple. Because in the time of the decree by King Artaxerxes, Jerusalem had been both restored and built, as in verse 25. In verse 25, we also find the mention of the 7 weeks and the 62 weeks. Let's look at those closer. 7 weeks times 7 days equals to 49 days. But if we apply our code here, we get 49 actual years. You might be asking, why is that important? Well, it's because 49 years after 557 BC, that was the roughly considered time of the temple being finished with its construction. Listen to this. As I was saying, that was roughly considered as the time when the temple construction finished. And that concludes the 7 weeks. Let's move on to the 62 weeks. Now, if 62 weeks times 7 days is 434 days, then you get 434 years. And 434 years is when we apply our prophecy code. Listen. Yeah. If you're wondering, the place where I'm going, it's actually a waterfall. That's why so many people are here. The interesting thing about this is that 434 years after 408 BC comes 27 AD, which just so happens to be when Jesus got baptized. In Luke 14 verse 8 and Mark 1 verse 15, it tells us more about how this refers to Daniel 9 verse 24, where it says that the Most Holy One will be anointed. So if you subtract 434 years from 408 BC, you'll get 26 AD. And that's because your calculator doesn't know that there's no such thing as a 0 year. You just gotta add it manually. You gotta add the +1 manually. I'm at the waterfall right now. We got some people over there. Imagine if I went all the way up there, like for the rest of the video. Imagine if I went. If you made it this far into the video, congrats. You just learned 85% of the Daniel 9 70 weeks prophecy. I'm proud of you. What patch there? Okay, so we've learned about the 7 weeks and the 62 weeks. Both of these add up to 69 weeks. We're currently learning about the prophecy of the 70 weeks, so that means we just have one more prophetic week or 7 real years. And here in verse 26, it says, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. 3.5 years after 27 AD, in 31 AD, Jesus was crucified. In verse 27, it says, but in the middle of that week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. Jesus didn't die for himself. He died for us. And through that death, he established a new covenant. Let's look at Matthew 27, verse 50 and 51. And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. Then, behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked, and the rocks were split. Here we just read that the curtains tore from the top all the way to the bottom. It became 2 pieces. That represents the end of rituals and sacrifices, because all animal sacrifices pointed to Jesus himself. But the prophecy didn't end there. Jesus died in the middle of the final prophetic week. That means there's still 3.5 years left. And during that time, the gospel went to the Jewish nation. In Acts 7, Stephen stands before the Sanhedrin. After they rejected his message, Stephen was persecuted to death. By stoning Stephen, the Jewish nation rejected Jesus, the Messiah. Therefore, the gospel went to the Gentiles. So that brings us to the end of the 70-week prophecy, just as God intended.